The universe is vast, and the great way is impermanent. You have reborn the Earth star and possess the ability to transcend the heavens. When blessings reach your soul, all things will know it. Lin Beichen was reborn into a parallel world, and suddenly a mysterious voice rang out in his mind. Without a system, he unexpectedly discovered that he had an incredible understanding, and all things in the world were just a glimpse. How should one make use of their innate intelligence? Lin Beichen set his sights on the college entrance examination 1 month later. In just 1 month, he completed the comeback from being a poor student at the end of the crane to becoming the top scorer in the college entrance examination. This also quickly made him lose interest in learning, because with an incredible understanding, human knowledge is not difficult, as if it is innate. Lin Beichen was in distress and didn't know how to develop his talent. Until that day, with heavy rain and lightning, Lin Beichen sat by the window in a daze, feeling blessed and moved. He slowly extended his palm, spread it out, and looked at the thunderous lights in the sky, trying to pick up a finger and point towards the sky and earth. There is no cultivation method in this world, but when I come, it should have appeared. Palm Thunder. The theme of Only Me and One Law, keywords of the novel. Adventure of the Sky, creating the 5 thunder laws in the real world without pop-ups. Adventure of the Sky, creating the 5 thunder laws in the real world. Download the complete set of TXT, Adventure of the Sky, creating the 5 thunder laws in the real world. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Understanding Against Heaven. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Understanding Against Heaven. Dark chaos, mist spreading. Lin Beichen was like a headless fly, wandering aimlessly around the world without light, unable to find a way out. Suddenly, the heavens and earth trembled, and chaos was torn open. A strand of scorching white emerged from the crack and shone on Lin Beichen's body. At the same time, a majestic and warm sound echoed through the world. The universe is vast, and the great way is impermanent. You have reborn the Earth star with a natural talent for understanding and transcending the heavens. When blessings reach the soul, all things will know it. The elusive words have not yet fallen. The white mist in front of Lin Beichen gradually dissipated. He seemed to have had a dream and suddenly woke up from the table. Sweating profusely, he lifted his head and saw his surroundings clearly. It's a cozy room. Outside the window, stars dot the sky, the moon hangs high, and the desk lamp inside the house is bright. What sound? Earth star. A natural talent for understanding and defying the heavens. Did you dream just now? A series of question marks instantly appeared in Lin Beichen's mind, but before he could carefully ponder what was going on, memories flooded into his mind. Time travel. Even though Lin Beichen had read extensively on the internet in his past life, it was his own turn to experience things like this. He still took a long time to digest and accept this situation. After going through the memories in his mind, he realized that he had been reborn. Reborn to Earth, in a parallel world that was almost indistinguishable from the previous one. I returned to the time point when I was about to take the college entrance examination. I didn't expect the dream before death has come true. Former Lin Beichen couldn't even reach the edge of junior college due to his college entrance examination scores, so he had to start exploring society early after graduating from high school, doing some hard and tedious work, which led to his overwork and illness, and he had to face the arrival of death at a young age. At the end of his life, on his deathbed, he looked back on his own life and felt infinite regret in his heart. He secretly sighed to himself, wishing he could live his life again. But I didn't expect heaven follows man's wishes. A natural talent for understanding and defying the heavens. At this moment, Lin Beichen finally remembered the most important point from the sentence he had just heard. His first reaction was the system. After all, as a reborn person, how could the essential system for rebirth not be present? However, after several unsuccessful attempts to interact with the so-called system, perhaps it was that talent that made him realize it all at once. I don't have a system myself. The reborn have no system. Isn't this just like the West doesn't have Jerusalem? Lin Beichen was foolish. As a reborn person, he didn't even have a system. But fortunately, there is also an extraordinary insight. Now Lin Beichen's consciousness is gradually awakening, and he also gradually understands what happened just now. The words in my vague mind just now were not the sound of the system or the sound of heaven and earth, but actually came from my own subconscious. After being reborn, his subconscious made him realize where his talent lies, which is why, like a dream, he produced that sentence. Just is this statement just a dream or is it true? Moreover, overwhelming comprehension. What's the use of it? How should we prove it? Triple question. Recalling the online articles I read in my previous life, the protagonists in them all became dominant figures in parallel worlds through their systems. Although Lin Beichen did not have a system, he felt inexplicably drawn in and began to think about how to fulfill his talent. After pondering for a while, as his head slowly lifted and his gaze shifted upwards, stacks of textbooks and papers were arranged on the bookshelf, piled up on the desk, he finally had some ideas. Learning. Lin Beichen is not yet very clear about the inevitable connection between comprehension and other things, but he understands the connection between comprehension and learning. When he thought of his classmates who skipped classes and went online with him during school, they always ranked among the top after exams, and he was the last one. And don't ask, he just didn't know. If he asked again, it was because he had a natural talent for learning. He hated it so much that his teeth itch. Isn't talent in learning just intelligence? The ability to comprehend certain things. Now my own intelligence is going against the sky. Can the grade still reach the end? It doesn't exist. Looking at the countdown sign at the corner of the table, which read, 36 days left until the college entrance examination, Lin Beichen unconsciously had some anticipation in his heart. He looked up at the wall clock, which was almost 1 o'clock in the morning. After experiencing this series of things, he also lacked energy, yawned, didn't think much, turned off the lights and went to bed, fell asleep, and his movements were completed in one breath. I woke up before dawn. High school seniors, especially those about to take the college entrance examination, sleep later than dogs and wake up earlier than chickens. When Lin Beichen arrived at the classroom, he couldn't say that there was no absence, but it was almost there. The noisy morning reading filled the classroom. The classmates were all focused on their studies and didn't pay much attention to Lin Beichen's appearance. Only Lin Beichen's desk mate symbolically chatted a few words after Lin Beichen sat down, and then, like everyone else, he also lay on the table and started learning. In my 3rd year of high school, I was in my prime. Lin Beichen sighed in his heart, and being infected by this familiar and unfamiliar scene, he quickly took out the English textbook for the first class and read it. For the first time, he felt like reading the Book of Heaven, even more difficult than the Book of Heaven. The second time, he felt like he was still reading the heavenly book, but this time, a faint imprint appeared on the blank heavenly book. So, he flipped through the textbook over and over again, feeling inexplicable waves constantly emerging. This made him feel that everything, such as the letters that make up words and the words that make up sentences, had a certain pattern, and this pattern gradually deepened his impression of the words and sentences he saw, which he had already forgotten. I can't forget it, I can't even forget it. This talent seems real, and there's something to it. Whether in his past life or this life, Lin Beichen is not a good student, and he is extremely addicted to the feeling that can only be experienced by top students. For a moment, Lin Beichen was a bit excited. After his rebirth, there was indeed a golden finger, but it was not a system, but his own innate intelligence talent. He began to constantly take out textbooks for different subjects and started learning. However, soon he realized that the knowledge he saw was somewhat rigid, just memorized, but still lacking in application. You can't read dead books. Lin Beichen knew that this was because no one was calling, but he didn't wait long either. The person who called quickly arrived. Class time is up. The English teacher walked in as the class bell rang, and passionately started the class. In the sprint stage of the college entrance examination, not only students are putting in effort, but teachers are also putting in 200% effort. The students asked one question after another, and the teacher tirelessly answered them. English class is like this, and the following Chinese class, math class, physics class. Every class is like this. English and Chinese classes are okay, there's no special feeling. But subjects like mathematics, physics, and so on, which have high requirements for logical thinking, that would be a completely different world. Listening to these questions and answers, Lin Beichen instantly understood. The spiritual light in my mind constantly appears, and my thinking is as a vast ocean. The high walls of problems that previously existed in my mind cannot be flipped over no matter how hard I tried, either collapse suddenly or find other ways to overcome them. Not only is it easy to understand, but it can also draw inferences from other situations. Smart intelligence has completely taken over the high ground in an instant. To put it in the words that teachers often praise top students, it's too spiritual. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. There is no hope for undergraduate studies, but there is hope for vocational studies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. There is no hope for undergraduate studies, but there is hope for vocational studies. There are still 35 days left until the college entrance examination. There are still 34 days left until the college entrance examination. There are still 33 days left until the college entrance examination. Day by day, Lin Beichen's life is also in a cyclical pattern. He reads the secretary's knowledge points, listens carefully to the class, and then flexibly applies the knowledge points. However, the college entrance examination is still based on what has been learned in the past 3 years. There is just too much knowledge. With only 1 month left, teachers cannot cover everything in class. For someone who used to be a complete academic failure, he remembered a lot of knowledge but still couldn't use it, so soon he added another thing to his daily cycle of things: run to the office and ask the teacher a question. At first, the teachers thought it was just a sudden impulse from Lin Beichen, who couldn't hold on for a few days or even the next day. However, Lin Beichen's persistence and enthusiasm exceeded their expectations. Unfortunately, Lin Beichen only woke up now, it's too late. Lin Beichen has been working very hard these days, and it can be seen that he is studying seriously. The questions he asks are becoming more and more proficient, but unfortunately, there are only a few days left until the college entrance examination. If Lin Beichen had had the energy to get into a second-tier university when he was just in his 3rd year of high school, and if he had just worked hard now. Hey! After the college entrance examination, if Lin Beichen is not discouraged and can maintain such a learning enthusiasm, repeating the exam may also be a good choice for him. A month is not short, but in the eyes of the high school seniors who cherish time like gold, it seems like a blink of an eye. There is still 1 day left until the college entrance examination. The day before the college entrance examination. On this day, although there were still course schedules, the teachers of each subject did not teach or answer questions. They also shed their usual strict disguise, without any criticism, and encouraged every student who was going to the battlefield tomorrow with warm smiles. Tomorrow is the day to test your 3 years of high school learning achievements. Of course, you should not be too nervous, maintain a calm mind, in order to perform normally or even exceptionally well. The college entrance examination is not the end point, but a new starting point in your life. I hope you can all stand on your new starting point with a proud attitude, look back at the past, and leave no regrets. Finally, before going out tomorrow, be sure to check your admission ticket well. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say earlier, you must carefully review the questions. As the seemingly relaxed instructions from the homeroom teacher came to an end, high school life officially came to an end. Students who were not familiar with the exam site flocked to the site to step on it. Lin Beichen's exam center was right at his own school, so he didn't have to step on it. He went straight home, had dinner, played a few games, and then lay down in bed. As for reading and reviewing, after more than a month of hard work and with the help of his innate talent of intelligence against heaven, he is very confident that he has integrated all the knowledge in various subjects during the 3 years of high school, and there is no need to review anything. Moreover, his spirit has been tense for so long, and he also needs such a time to take a small break. Tomorrow is the college entrance examination. I'm really looking forward to it. Whether in his past or present life, Lin Beichen was still looking forward to an exam for the first time. With this expectation, he quickly fell asleep. The next day, it wasn't the alarm clock that woke him up, but the nervous cries of his parents. "Son, son, wake up to eat, prepare for the college entrance examination." Lin Beichen opened his eyes and saw his eagerly looking parents. Lin Beichen's father is very thin, with a clean and sharp cut, and wearing black framed glasses, which looks like an old scholar. His mother has a well-proportioned figure, and although she is old, it is not difficult to see the charm of her youth. Originally, the elderly couple had no hope for their son's college entrance examination, but they all saw Lin Beichen's performance in the past month and their hearts were once again filled with a small flame of hope. I don't expect any 1 or 2 books anymore. What if I can get into a vocational college? Lin Beichen didn't know that his parents only expected him to be a specialist. He quickly woke up, had a sumptuous breakfast, refused his parents' idea of sending him to school, and walked to school as usual. At this moment, the school gate was already crowded with people, and the atmosphere on site was restless and noisy. Lin Beichen didn't want to be infected by this atmosphere. He quickly walked through the crowded crowd, held his admission ticket, and smoothly entered the examination room. He found his seat and sat down. Native phosphorus is more abundant than the millet grains in you, the cracks on the tiles are uneven, more than the silk threads around the body. Sending a mayfly to heaven and earth, like a drop in the vast sea. I mourn the moment of my life, and envy the infinity of the Yangtze River. The buzzing murmurs kept ringing from all sides of the exam room. The candidates were working hard to strengthen their impression of the knowledge points, until the invigilators walked into the classroom with sealed test papers and stepped on the bell, and they finally fell completely silent. "Look, this is sealed and has not been opened." The invigilator held up the sealed test paper and showed it to the candidates. Then, while other invigilators were reading the rules of the examination room, they opened the sealed bag and distributed the test paper. These questions. After Lin Beichen received the exam paper, he immediately reviewed the questions above. In his opinion, this Chinese language exam paper for the college entrance examination was like giving away points for nothing. Filling in the blanks with ancient poems that require rote memorization is very simple, and the application questions that require comprehension are also very easy to understand. Even essays that require high scores can easily understand their meaning. Lin Beichen was relieved. Since his rebirth, he has not yet experienced a real exam. A few days before his rebirth, the third mock examination before the college entrance exam ended, and there was no exam after that. Although he is very confident in his academic achievements over the past month, he has always been a scumbag in his past and present lives, and he still has some doubts about how many exams he will take. Until now he just completely let go of his heart. My heart is full of sunshine. Shwa 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 shwa. Lin Beichen wrote with great speed, just as the other candidates in the exam room had just entered the answering state, he had already completed the test paper. On the test paper, the notes are neat and orderly, with orderly spacing between words, making it look pleasing to the eye. Lin Beichen originally planned to hand in the paper immediately, but after checking the time, he found that there were still more than 10 minutes left before the deadline for submission. He had no choice but to check the paper several times. The next second he could submit his paper, he immediately stood up and, under the surprised gaze of the candidates and invigilators in the examination room, handed in his paper and walked out. End of this chapter. Did chapter 3 install it for him? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did Chapter 3 install it for him? Coming out, there are candidates coming out. Are there candidates coming out so soon? I haven't heard the bell for the end of the exam yet. Is he submitting his paper early? At this moment, in addition to waiting for parents to pick up their children at the school gate, several media reporters were also waiting to interview candidates. When they saw Lin Beichen walking over, they rushed forward in a swarm. Hello classmate, what's your name? Classmate, did you know that you were the first one to leave the exam center? Did you submit your paper early? This student, may I ask if you came out so early because you thought the questions were too difficult, so you gave up directly? Classmate, how are you feeling after the first exam? Faced with this battle, Lin Beichen was stunned for a moment, and then the interviews he had seen before about the college entrance examination came to mind. I didn't expect to have another day of being interviewed. He thinks it's very novel. Recalling the questions he had just heard, he pondered for a moment and said, well, my name is Lin Beichen. I did submit my paper early, but I didn't give up on answering the questions because they were difficult, but because I felt that the questions. Speaking of this, Lin Beichen originally intended to say that the questions were too simple, but upon second thought, he realized that simplicity seemed to be for himself. So he changed his expression and said, is it difficult or not, is it simple or not? I'm not very clear. Anyway, when I did the questions, I was very fluent and there were no stumbling blocks, so I quickly completed the test paper. Media reporters. What is this saying? What words? Smooth problem. Solving without getting stuck. I don't know how difficult it is yet. Did you put it on him? Although the media reporters had some criticisms in their hearts, there were no other candidates walking out of the exam room at the moment. Lin Beichen is currently the only person they can interview, and they didn't want to let him go. They also pulled him to interview many messy questions, until the bell rang in the exam center and other candidates walked out from the campus one after another. They finally let Lin Beichen go and instead went to interview others. Originally, they thought this was the first and last interview with Lin Beichen. After all, there were at least 1,000 candidates at a testing center, and whether they could see Lin Beichen again, let alone the interview, was a question mark. But surprise all of them. The first person to step out of the exam center for the next exam will always be Lin Beichen. And they all come out of the designated time to submit their papers in advance. Even if they don't want to see it, it's impossible. Look, it's him again, Lin Beichen. He has remained stable from the beginning of the Chinese exam to the last English exam, stuck at this time. Every time I interviewed him, he always mentioned the areas where he did the questions smoothly without getting stuck, but when I interviewed other candidates, everyone felt that the question setting for this college entrance examination was somewhat difficult. I also met two well-known students in the city this morning who are at the top level of academic achievers. They both felt a lot of concern about this college entrance examination, thinking that many of the questions were even deliberately difficult. Can Lin Beichen be even more powerful than these top students? Can't we? If that's the case, wouldn't he be the one famous in the city? Although it's not easy to casually deny a student, Lin Beichen may indeed have some impressive subjects, but it's also impossible for all of them to be so impressive, even to the point of submitting papers early, right? Anyway, except for Lin Beichen, I haven't heard anyone who has enough time to finish the exam. Is it possible? I mean, is there a possibility that he doesn't have much concept of the difficulty level of the questions? In other words, he's just a poor student. He doesn't know how to solve difficult questions, nor does he know how to solve simple ones. Isn't it just that he can do them smoothly without getting stuck? The media reporters gathered together and whispered in conversation. After several interviews, they have all remembered the name of Lin Beichen. I can't remember it, it's really impressive. Apart from being the first candidate to leave the exam room every time, what's even more impressive is that his evaluation of each exam paper is the same, smooth to do, no jamming. At this moment, Lin Beichen walked out of the exam center. At this moment, his eyebrows furrowed slightly, his eyes flickered, and he looked worried. He was completely detached from the crowd outside the exam center, walking towards the crowded crowd on his own. The media reporters originally didn't want to interview him again. After all, the answers obtained from each interview are the same. Why let him pretend again? But seeing his current state, they suddenly felt that there might be different answers this time, and no matter what, this was also the last exam of the college entrance examination, and being able to interview was also the last time. So you looked at me, I looked at you, and still surrounded them. Lin, it seems that your expression is not as bright as in the previous exams. Did the English exam questions cause you trouble? Is the English exam difficult, Lin? This is also the last exam of the college entrance examination. May I ask, Lin, how do you feel after finishing the exam? Lin, we are about to have a super long vacation of nearly 3 months. Do you have any plans for this? Lin Beichen. Lin Beichen didn't even know when he fell into the encirclement of these media reporters. It wasn't the first time he had been interviewed, but when he regained his composure, he naturally replied, the English exam didn't cause me any trouble, just like the previous exam. A reporter suddenly asked, why does Lin look at you with a bad expression and seem to have something on your mind? Lin Beichen had a worried expression on his face, but there was a hint of helplessness in his smile. He sighed and said, this has nothing to do with exams. Maybe it's because I have lost interest in learning and don't know what direction to focus on next, which makes me feel confused. After the college entrance examination, this long vacation is also a good opportunity for me to use it to find other things to study. What Lin Beichen said was all from his heart. When he quickly finished his English exam, he was already pondering what to do next. Learning for him has completely lost its freshness, no difficulty at all, and after reading it, it is truly boring. He cannot find the sense of achievement that constantly challenges and ultimately breaks through himself. In the eyes of media reporters, Lin Beichen's answer completely confirms his previous discussion. The expression is so bad. I also lost interest in learning. Isn't this just a complete mess and a setback in the exam? Looking at Lin Beichen walking away, at this moment, there were already many dark clouds gathering in the sky, blocking out a large area of sunlight. The supposed golden evening appeared extremely dim, and under the dark clouds, his back was lonely and desolate. They didn't catch up and ask anything again. I thought to myself, he is just a student who failed the college entrance examination and is still holding his tongue. How bad his mood should be. It would be too inhumane to bother him anymore. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Is both mission and destiny. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 is both mission and destiny. Chapter 4 is both mission and destiny. Lin Beichen certainly won't know what these media reporters are thinking, and he doesn't want to know either. His mind is now full of thoughts about what he wants to do with his talents in the future. He wandered through the crowded crowd, dragging his heavy steps towards the direction of home step by step. Sha sha sha. Halfway through, a drizzle began to fall in the sky. Raindrops fell like silk on Lin Beichen's body, as if he hadn't noticed, completely lost in thought. He didn't even remember how he got to his home or how he got into his own room. By the time he regained his senses, the dark clouds outside the window had already gathered together, blocking the sky and sun, and the rain had already started pouring heavily, making a loud noise. But what else can this incredible talent for comprehension be used for? It's not that Lin Beichen's mind is blank and he can't think of anything, but he feels that being reborn and having such a talent, he just uses it to understand and learn things that follow rules and regulations, which is really boring. Lin Beichen looked out the window, his melancholy magnified infinitely on this rainy day. The strong wind howled outside the window, and raindrops pattered against the window. The thick black clouds in the sky were blown up, curled and stacked together like giant waves one after another, as if they were about to sweep away all the buildings in the distance where they met the sky. A dense and tiny arc swims through the dark clouds, constantly jumping and flickering. Suddenly, a bright and sturdy lightning, as if it had been stored for a long time, twisted and stretched into the sky and earth, dividing them in half, flashing past and illuminating half of the sky. Click. The sound of thunder and lightning cracking on the silk echoed closely between heaven and earth, deafening. The rapidly falling raindrops in the air seemed to tremble. Lin Beichen raised his eyebrows, and his confused eyes suddenly became focused. He looked through the window filled with mottled rain, without blinking, at the dark clouds, his eyes bright and full of brilliance. The rain is getting heavier and heavier, as if someone is holding a bucket and splashing water on top of dark clouds. The small arcs in the clouds flicker faster and brighter. Click. Click. Dot. Lightning flickered continuously in the dark sky like no money. Lin Beichen became more and more mesmerized as he watched, his pitch-black pupils reflecting lightning in the sky, with more and more fine bright lines almost occupying the entire pupil. At this moment, another lightning bolt flashed across the sky. Suddenly, bright lines scattered. His pupils seemed to be glowing, bright and dazzling. At this moment, Lin Beichen felt everything around him constantly fading away, and the world quieted down. At the same time, he found that his thoughts seemed to be detached from his body, riding the wind and stepping into the air, gazing at the 9 heavens at a glance. In the distance, the jumping arcs were scattered in all directions of the clouds, like headless flies, freely weaving and colliding with each other at one node after another, bursting out lightning bolts that were ready to explode. In other words, these lightning bolts are all nurtured by this arc. Lightning strikes down from the clouds, like a lightning prison. Where lightning passes, the surrounding arc flickers, the air is burned, raindrops pass by, and in the moment of suspension, they oscillate and evaporate without leaving any traces. When the arc contained in each lightning bolt is completely released, it is when it dissipates. It seems that extending to the ground is the mission of every lightning, and it also seems that dissipation is the fate of every lightning. In the end, mission is not worth fate. Lightning rarely reaches the ground. But any lightning that touches the ground will always burst out with terrifying energy, as if inspiring lightning that has not yet completed its mission, to provoke fate. The mission never fades, and the destiny never ceases. However, who gives a mission, who determines destiny? Why did you occasionally break free from fate? In the dark it seems that only heaven knows. Lin Beichen felt like he had entered an indescribable state, with clear and boundless thoughts. Just as he was about to catch any sudden glimmer of spiritual light, another lightning bolt flashed by. This lightning seemed to have been gathering momentum since the rain had not yet fallen, with a commanding aura sweeping across the entire sky, instantly obscuring the brilliance of other lightning bolts. One branch stands out. Cha-cha. The loud thunder instantly brought Lin Beichen back to his senses, and the lightning in the sky seemed to be infinitely amplified, exploding in front of him. In an instant, the lightning arc seemed to have all rushed into his mind, and the brain nerves were crackling inside his head, rapidly conducting and connecting into a network of thoughts. He realized. He seems to finally know what he's going to do next. There is no cultivation method in this world, supernatural power. But I'm here. It should have appeared. This is mission, and also destiny. Create cultivation methods and comprehend supernatural powers. Once this idea sprouts, it is an uncontrollable frenzy of growth. The pitch-black window reflected Lin Beichen's clear and handsome figure, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, revealing an expectant smile. Let's start studying supernatural powers from this lightning bolt. When reading novels in his past life, Lin Beichen envied the protagonist's ability to control lightning and ride the wind. Now that there is a possibility, he wants to give it a try. After all, a natural talent that transcends the heavens. Can you at least comprehend the 2 words, ascending to the heavens, that are only suitable for cultivation methods? Lin Beichen's eyes were bright as he looked out the window at the flickering thunder and lightning, but half a day had passed and the feeling he had felt before could never reappear. Is Wu's posture incorrect? Lin Beichen thought of the enlightenment scenes he had seen before, which required sitting cross-legged with a posture. Without saying a word, he immediately sat cross-legged in his memory and continued to look out the window with a focused expression. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. For a moment, Lin Beichen's mouth twitched a few times and awkwardly scratched his head, saying, "Isn't it a posture issue? Why hasn't there been any sense of enlightenment?" He was a bit skeptical that his innate talent for understanding the supernatural could truly be realized. Hey, is this limited space limiting the expression of intelligence? Lin Beichen suddenly thought of something and looked around his small room, feeling that his guess was reasonable. Since we want to study lightning, we need to be closer to nature and personally understand the mysteries. How can we live in this small room? At this thought, he stood up, eagerly opened the door, and rushed out of the house. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Silent Family Love, Yet Never Stopping. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Silent Family Love, Yet Never Stopping. Click. The sound of closing the door faintly reached the ears of Lin Beichen's parents, who were busy in the kitchen. Zheng Xia, the mother of Lin Beichen, paused her chopping knife and turned her head to look at Lin Xiangdong, who was also Lin Beichen's father, who was fighting. She wondered, "Old Lin, have you heard anything? What's going on?" Lin Xiangdong had a puzzled expression on his face. He pushed open the kitchen door and glanced at the house, but there was nothing unusual. He then returned to the kitchen and shook his head with a smile, saying, "It's been thundering outside. Did you hear it wrong?" "Oh." Zheng Xia nodded and continued cutting vegetables, sighing with a smile, saying, "I'm really feeling a bit nervous today." Chen Chen just finished his college entrance exam and went into his own room as soon as he came back. "I don't know how he did on the exam." At this point, she suddenly thought of something and asked without turning her head, "Oh, by the way, Lao Lin, didn't you open the door for your son? How did he look when he came back?" Facial expressions. Lin Xiangdong recalled for a moment, but the expression on his face was not good at first. He said, "It seems like he was a bit dazed. He went back to his room without even saying hello to me. Isn't that a failure in the exam?" Zheng Xia's heart suddenly tugged and she muttered, "Our son has been working so hard in the last month or so, isn't it too much pressure? He didn't perform well because he wanted to do well in the exam." As she spoke, her heart was filled with panic. She turned her head and glared at Lin Xiangdong, saying, "Don't use your work style again and ask your son questions. Before our son speaks on his own, please don't talk too much." Lin Xiangdong. Lin Xiangdong felt bitter in his heart. "I didn't say anything. You said you were feeling unwell, so why take offense at me?" Of course, he was muttering these words to himself, but he didn't dare to say it. He just nodded and focused on the work he had started. "Speaking of which, our son is also sensible at the very least. I have seen all the efforts in this last month. My wife." Lin Xiangdong interrupted Zheng Xia's fragmented thoughts. He quickly put the freshly washed vegetables in his hand into the water control basket, pointed out the window, and asked with a bewildered expression, "Do you think that's our son?" "What?" Zheng Xia quickly looked up and followed the direction pointed by Lin Xiangdong, looking out the window. Outside the window, the heavy rain continued to pour down incessantly, with thunderbolts flickering in the sky. Amidst the alternation of light and dark, a slender figure stood downstairs, letting the rain wash away. "Why isn't that?" Zheng Xia pinched Lin Xiangdong's arm hard and complained angrily, "Isn't that the outfit our son is wearing today? It must have been Chen Chen who didn't do well in the exam today. The blow he received was too great. Just thinking about it, I worked hard for over a month but didn't perform well. It must have been very stimulating." She didn't stop in her mouth as she spoke, pinching Lin Xiangdong beside her and saying, "What are you still doing here? Why don't you come with me to enlighten our son and bring him back? Hey, how can your emotions guide Chen Chen?" Lin Xiangdong didn't care about his sore arm being pinched, so he quickly grabbed Jing Xia who was about to leave and said, "You should continue cooking at home and wait for me to bring Chen Chen back. It's delicious and hot. Then you go quickly." Okay. Lin Xiangdong hurriedly ran out, caring about his son. He didn't even have time to find an umbrella, and only remembered it when he was about to leave the building hole. Hey, forget it. Lin Xiangdong also didn't want to waste time going home to get an umbrella. Looking at Lin Beichen outside the corridor, who was already soaked all over and his clothes sticking to his body, he looked up at the sky in a daze. He sighed and walked to Lin Beichen's side with a look of heartache on his face. He didn't say anything, just sat gently beside him, looked up, and looked at the sky. Father's love is silent, yet it never stops. Two people, 2 generations sit side by side like this. Time passes quickly in silence. Gradually, the wind gradually stopped and the rain gradually decreased. Lin Beichen slowly regained his senses and finally discovered his father sitting next to him. Just now, although he didn't find the feeling he had before, he also entered a state of immersion and had no sense of anything from the outside world. Dad. Lin Beichen looked at Lin Xiangdong, who was drenched in soup like himself, with a puzzled expression on his face and asked, "What are you doing here?" Son, victory or defeat is a common occurrence in military families. Lin Xiangdong didn't answer Lin Beichen's question. He looked at him with a deep gaze and a deep expression. He patted his shoulder and comforted him, "If you didn't do well, you didn't do well. Dad won't blame you, don't have any pressure. In fact, the college entrance examination is not the only way out, hard work is. As long as you have worked hard, it is enough, and sometimes the result is not so important. You will always be Dad's pride." Lin Beichen. He was confused by this. What is this all about? Lin Beichen quickly waved his hand to interrupt his father who was still comforting him, and said with a strange expression, "Dad, did you misunderstand?" Misunderstanding? Yeah. Lin Beichen nodded, unable to laugh or cry, and said, "I didn't get caught in the rain because I didn't do well on the exam. I just wanted to observe the lightning and ponder. Do you think this person can control this supernatural power?" Lin Xiangdong. Now it's his turn to listen and get confused, more precisely, he's dumbfounded. This child cannot be a failure in the exam. Are you fooled by being stimulated? Lin Xiangdong instinctively shifted his buttocks to the side, looked up and down at Lin Beichen, and nervously said, "Son, don't scare Dad. What's wrong with you? What nonsense are you talking about?" Lin Beichen originally wanted to say something, but on second thought, it felt like nothing could make a normal ordinary person accept his thoughts. He was too lazy to explain anything and said, "Dad, I'm really okay." As he spoke, he saw that the rain had stopped and there was no more lightning or thunder. He knew that staying outside would be of no use anymore, so he changed the topic and said, all right, Dad, let's go home. Mom should have prepared the meal, right?" This. Lin Beichen's words and phrases were completely different from his usual appearance. Lin Xiangdong felt so strange, and he raised his hand to touch Lin Beichen's forehead, feeling uneasy. He muttered, "I didn't have a fever either, that's right. I just got soaked in the rain, and how could I have a fever so quickly?" Lin Beichen. He doesn't want to sit here like this anymore, afraid that his father will give him some examination later. "Dad, I'll go home for dinner first. If you want to sit, just keep sitting here. Hey. Wait for me." Lin Xiangdong quickly got up and followed up, looking at his son's back. His eyes were still full of concern. "No, I can't. I'll have to talk to your mother about this situation when I come back." End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Understanding super doubling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Understanding Super Doubling. Sure enough. By the time the father and son returned home, Zheng Xia had already set the dishes on the table. She didn't ask anything and greeted them with a smile. At the dinner table, the family of three stuttered happily. If it weren't for the fact that Lin Beichen and Lin Xiangdong had already changed their clothes and their hair was still wet, it seemed as if nothing had happened just now. Dad, Mom, I'm full, you guys eat slowly. After finishing speaking, Lin Beichen stood up and walked towards his bedroom, thinking of going back to his room to savor his recent understanding of lightning. Zheng Xia looked at his back with a loving and gentle smile on her face, and said softly, You also need to rest well. Watching Lin Beichen walk into his bedroom. She changed her face like a Sichuan opera face, instantly changing into a questioning expression, and turned her head to look at Lin Xiangdong. Lao Lin, what's wrong with you? If you call your son back, be good and be with him outside in the rain, and don't know what to say, if it's seen by the neighbors. His mother, I'm going to let you go ahead of time. I have to talk to you about Chen Chen. Lin Xiangdong waved his hand to interrupt Zheng Xia's incessant chatter, his face serious and solemn. Zheng Xia's heart skipped a beat when she saw his expression, and she hurriedly asked, Chen Chen's situation. What situation? What did you say outside just now? I feel that this college entrance examination has had a significant impact on Chen Chen. Lin Xiangdong sighed and continued with a worried expression, just outside, he came back to me and said, he got soaked in the rain outside not because he didn't do well in the exam, but because he wanted to study the thunder and lightning in the sky and control it. What are you saying? I'm wondering if I should take him to the hospital to see. This. Zheng Xia felt a moment of panic after listening, but soon cleared her mind of the chaotic thoughts. She glanced at Lin Beichen's room, the door tightly closed, as if he had closed his heart door. She lowered her voice and whispered, Old Lin, take Chen Chen to the hospital for a day or two in advance. Don't stimulate him, let him adjust and regulate himself first. What we need to do is to closely monitor his every move these days and not let him do anything out of bounds. Okay, I got it. The old couple outside the door were still worried about Lin Beichen's situation, while inside the door, Lin Beichen was already sitting at the table sighing. I don't have a clue. Lin Beichen tried to immerse himself in that feeling again based on his memories, but he couldn't do it, and it was as if he had never experienced the same feeling before, which made him very distressed. How should we continue? Is it difficult for this incredible talent to comprehend the cultivation method? But what happened to that feeling before? There must be a problem with the methods and methods. Lin Beichen's brain was running at high speed, and suddenly, as if enlightened, he found the Huadian. As the saying goes, towering buildings rise from the ground. If you want to create a cultivation method yourself, should we start with the most basic things? By accumulating knowledge and gradually realizing the cultivation method. Instead of thinking about achieving it overnight. For a moment, Lin Beichen's mind was wide open. When he entered that feeling state before, what he saw seemed to be the process of the origin and disappearance of lightning. In other words, it was the life of lightning. Since that's the case, can we start by understanding the essence of lightning as the first step? He quickly turned on the computer and typed 2 words, lightning, on Baidu. Suddenly, countless entries appeared on the computer screen. Lightning is a discharge phenomenon between clouds and the ground, or between various parts of a cloud. Usually, cumulonimbus clouds generate electric charges, with the bottom layer being negative and the top layer being positive. Positive and negative charges attract each other. When the positive and negative charges come close to a certain distance, an electric spark will appear. Lin Beichen nodded thoughtfully, which was roughly consistent with the scene he had seen before the formation of lightning in that sensory state. It seemed that what he had seen at that time was not the scene he had imagined out of thin air in that sensory state, but the real clouds in the sky. When a certain number of electric sparks gather, a strong electric field is formed between different parts of the cloud or between the cloud and the ground. So far, it is still the accumulation before the formation of lightning. He used to see those scenes as if he was watching a mime, just getting a rough idea of its meaning, but now by reviewing these materials, it's like adding subtitles to the mime for interpretation. Understanding super doubles. Under the push of a strong electric field, the free charge in the cloud quickly moves towards the ground. During the movement, electrons collide with air molecules, causing the air to ionize slightly and emit a faint light, which is also known as a discharge pulse. The process of lightning appearing is actually a series of discharge pulses. The interval between these pulses is very short, only a few % of a second. Pulses follow one after another, and subsequent pulses travel along the channel of the first pulse, repeating themselves in cycles due to the fact that each pulse discharge consumes a large amount of accumulated charge in the thunderstorm cloud. The subsequent main discharge process becomes weaker and weaker until the charge reserve in the thunderstorm cloud is depleted, and the pulse discharge can stop, thus ending a lightning process. I see. After understanding the process of lightning from formation to extinction, Lin Beichen had an inexplicable feeling. It was not that he was about to enter the same state of feeling as before, but rather a feeling of wanting to figure out something. I can't explain clearly, the way is unclear. Lightning-related news. At this moment, looking at the entry in related search, he couldn't help but click on it. 6 lightning strikes near the White House hit the same point on the ground, resulting in 3 deaths and 1 injury. Roy Cleveland Sullivan is a forest ranger in the beautiful country of Shenandoah National Park who was struck by lightning 7 times between 1942 and 1977. He survived these 7 attacks and is known as the human lightning rod. Samford, a corrupt man, was struck by lightning 3 times in his life. He survived 2 major disasters before his death, and even his grave was not spared after his death. He suffered a devastating lightning strike. Looking at these entries, Lin Beichen's inexplicable feeling became even stronger, as if he was about to catch something. Why do multiple lightning strikes hit the same point one after another? There are so many people in the world. Why are there people who have been struck by lightning several times, and even some who have not escaped the outrageous act of being struck by lightning even after death? Lin Beichen fell into contemplation, with question marks constantly turning in his mind. He habitually wanted to embrace his arms. And at the moment when my fingertips run over the clothes. Clack. Electric flicker and static electricity that is difficult to detect with the naked eye. The stimulation of his fingertips made Lin Beichen's mind skip a beat. His dizzy and swollen head instantly became clear, as if he had connected the 2 meridians of Ren and Do. The question marks in his mind shattered and reassembled into 2 characters, charge. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. I study lightning at home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. I study lightning at home. It's an electric charge. All the reasons are the unequal distribution of positive and negative charges. The same applies to the ground and people. After thinking through this layer, Lin Beichen's thoughts were unobstructed, and the inexplicable feeling seemed to have been grasped in his hand. Everyone has positive and negative charges in their bodies, and the 2 types of charges are completely equal, presenting an electrically neutral state. But if the charges are imbalanced, will they become the endpoint of the discharge pulse? They will also become those who are often favored by lightning. Perhaps the reason why they were struck multiple times by lightning is because the lightning shock keeps the positive and negative charges inside their bodies in a subtle imbalance forever. But why were they first hit by lightning? Did the positive and negative charges inside their bodies become unbalanced when they were first struck by lightning? What caused it? A new problem has arisen. Lin Beichen's head was spinning at high speed, and soon, his eyes lit up. Since it is possible that lightning struck them, causing an imbalance of positive and negative charges in their bodies, is it possible that electric shock is the cause of the imbalance of positive and negative charges in people's bodies? At the thought of this, Lin Beichen immediately had an idea, just give it a try and you'll know. Not crazy, not alive. He decided to feel the changes in his body caused by the electric shock. Hey! At this moment, Lin Beichen's spiritual light suddenly appeared and another thing came to mind. There are two types of charges in the human body, positive and negative. Isn't this a necessary condition for forming lightning? If a way can be found to make the positive and negative charges in the body collide, can lightning be formed in the body? And if this electric shock can really cause an imbalance of positive and negative charges in the human body, does it represent that it catalyzes the collision of positive and negative charges in the human body? This series of imaginative associations is innate. After realizing some clues, he felt that personally experiencing the electric shock was a crucial step in starting to create cultivation methods. What is used to feel an electric shock? Lin Beichen turned off his search for lightning and began searching for instruments and equipment that could generate electricity. There are many instruments and equipment that can generate electricity, the most common of which is high-voltage wires. However, he knows that his talent lies in his innate intelligence, rather than the invincible body of King Kong, so he also chooses equipment that can withstand the amount of electricity he can. He doesn't want to be reborn. Before the cultivation method was created, he was electrified first. It's Baidu now. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ling-ling. Suddenly, the phone rings. Lin Beichen glanced at his phone screen and saw that it was his classmate calling. His classmate's name is Li Yang, and he can be said to be one of the few people in the class who have the best relationship with him. What is he calling for now? Whispering, Lin Beichen answered the phone. Not waiting for him to speak. On the other end of the phone, Li Yang excitedly said, "Brother Lin, go out and play tomorrow. Let's sing together." Although he has just finished the college entrance examination, he has made up his mind not to mention it. He only has expectations and aspirations for a beautiful long vacation. As for the college entrance examination scores, they should be anxious when they are about to be released later. Now is the critical moment for studying lightning. Lin Beichen didn't want to delay taking the first step of creating his cultivation method, so he refused. I'm not going. I still have something to do." "What's up?" "After finishing the college entrance examination, what can you do?" Li Yang thought that his good brother was because he didn't do well in the college entrance examination, feeling low and not in the mood to go out and play. He began to comfort him. "No, buddy. I know you died studying there in the last month, but you've been in a slump for 3 years now. It's not like you can work hard in a month. If you're not in a good mood, let's go out." "Hi. Stop and stop." Lin Beichen interrupted Li Yang's incessant chatter, crying and laughing, saying, "I'm in a good mood. I'm not going because of the college entrance examination, it's really something." "What are you talking about? If you can't come up with a reason, I'll take the mice to your house tomorrow to catch you." Li Yang is really amazing. Seeing his unwavering attitude of not asking questions, Lin Beichen simply said, "I'm doing research at home." "Research? Research what?" "Study lightning." Li Yang. On the other end of the phone, Li Yang looked at his phone with a bewildered expression, as if he had heard it wrong. "Research lightning? What is studying lightning for? What a mess." Just as he was about to continue questioning, Lin Beichen's voice rang out first. "Alright, I have something else to do, so I'll hang up for now. You guys have a good time tomorrow. Goodbye." "Hey." Li Yang's attempt to persuade him to stay was interrupted by a busy beep. He looked at his phone with a strange expression for a while, then shook his head and spat, "Damn it, if you don't want to go, then you don't want to go. Make these excuses, and when you see him later, you will definitely give him a millennium kill. Treat him well. He is not the kind of person who forces others to make things difficult," so he didn't call back and insist on inviting Lin Beichen. "It's getting late, so he washed up and slept soundly before waking up energized and heading to Yida Square for the appointment. At this time, Yida Square is overcrowded. Yesterday, I completed the most important exam in my life. The college entrance examination. Today, all the students came out and ran freely, releasing the pressure accumulated from 3 years of high school. However, despite this, Li Yang still caught a glimpse of his classmates waiting at the gathering point at the door and quickly ran over. We were just discussing whether it was you or Brother Lin who came last. It seems that it was Brother Lin who came last. We have already agreed, and the one who came last will treat us to milk tea. The mouse mentioned by Li Yang on the phone yesterday, Zhang Hao came up and punched Li Yang on the shoulder. Li Yang, who is 1.8 meters tall, is somewhat overweight, and he is only over 1.6 meters tall. He is lean and capable, and with this punch, he even raised his arm to reach Li Yang's shoulder. The scene looks somewhat comical. That seems like I'm going to treat you to milk tea. Li Yang hugged Zhang Hao and smiled, Brother Lin won't come today. Ah. Zhang Hao finally broke free and asked, why isn't Brother Lin coming? Li Yang paused for a moment and said with a strange expression, I called him yesterday and he said he wants to study lightning at home. Classmates. What? What kind of ghost is studying lightning? Yeah, can this lightning strike a student who just finished the college entrance examination to study? When can't we study lightning? Do we have to study it today? Harmful, I think it's Lin Go who didn't do well in the college entrance examination. He's looking for reasons and doesn't feel in the mood. It should be, how hard he has been studying this month. He hasn't performed well, and no one can mediate it for a while. Their idle chatter and chatter. Suddenly, someone shouted loudly. Hey, look, isn't that Brother Lin? Upon hearing the words, everyone followed the sound and looked away. A tall and handsome young man is walking out of Yida Plaza, holding a shopping bag in his hand. Although he can't see what is inside, from the appearance of the shopping bag, the contents inside are not light. Isn't it Lin Beichen's original name? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The New Generation of Thunderbolt King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The New Generation of Thunderbolt King, Brother Lin. Li Yang shouted at Lin Beichen in a loud voice, followed 3 steps and took 2 steps to get to his side. He made a gesture of killing for 1,000 years with both hands and shook it in front of Lin Beichen's eyes, jokingly saying, you said you don't want it, but your body is very honest. If you're not studying lightning at home, are you willing to come and play with us? At this point, he realized that he didn't seem to have mentioned where to gather, so he turned to his classmates who were following him and asked, who told Brother Lin that we gathered here? The classmates were all stunned, then shook their heads together, indicating that it was not themselves. At this moment, Lin Beichen also realized that he didn't expect to run into Li Yang and the others when he came to this mall to buy something. No one told me. Lin Beichen looked at Li Yang and shook his head with a smile, saying, actually, I'm here to buy something from Yida. I didn't expect to bump into you so coincidentally. So early in the morning to come and buy things. Li Yang pursed his lips and looked into the plastic bag, but after a while, he couldn't see what was inside. What did you buy? Speaking, he reached out to ask Lin Beichen about the plastic bag in his hand. Zhang Hao chuckled and said, what do you care about buying? Brother Lin, everyone has come. Why don't you go back? Come with us and we'll finish it. When he mentioned this, other classmates also joined in. Yeah, Brother Lin. Brother Lin, I won't let you treat us to milk tea at all. Yes, let Li Yang invite you. Brother Lin, don't you still want to go home and continue studying lightning? Ha ha ha. Lin Beichen is handsome and has a good personality. He has good relationships with his classmates and everyone is willing to play with him. It's nothing. Lin Beichen didn't argue with Li Yang, so he casually let him take the plastic bag. At the same time, he apologized to his other classmates and smiled, saying, "I really don't have time today. I have to go home immediately. I'm really sorry. Another day, I'll treat everyone to high pie." Good guy. At this moment, Li Yang's surprised voice rang out. Li Yang opened the plastic bag and looked inside with a strange expression. The other classmates were shouted at by him and looked over. Inside the plastic bag, there are many lighters and electric sticks. Whether they are lighters or electric sticks, various models are available, without any special samples. From small igniters that generate electricity through pressing ceramic dots inside lighters to police electric batons, these are the devices that Lin Beichen is preparing to use to feel the sensation of electric shock. According to the information he found online yesterday, he came early in the morning to purchase them within the range of electric shock voltage that people can safely withstand. So many electric batons. Brother Lin, are you studying lightning at home or electric batons? Why buy so many lighters, Brother Lin? I remember you wouldn't smoke either. My classmates are all dumbfounded. Li Yang even boasted, "Brother Lin, to be honest with me, have you already found a way out to take on Yang Yongxin's class and become the new generation of Thunderbolt Dharma King? Get lost." Lin Beichen gave Li Yang a bad look and snatched the plastic bag back from his hand without explaining anything. He waved his hand at his classmates and said, "You guys have fun, so I'll leave first." Watching Lin Beichen's figure quickly disappear at the end of the commercial street, the classmates withdrew their gaze. "You look at me, I look at you," a moment of confusion. What happened recently? It's really strange. However, this is just a minor episode after all. They quickly regained their vibrant appearance. "Let's play with us." Li Yang waved his hand and walked towards the milk tea shop, saying, "What are you drinking? I'll go get some." On the other side, after parting ways with his classmates, Lin Beichen immediately entered his own small world and quickly dismantled a lighter, taking out the igniter inside. Tisk. Looking at the black little thing pinched between his two fingers, Lin Beichen is no stranger. When he was young, he often used this thing to be mischievous. "I used to call others phones, but I never expected one day to call myself." Lin Beichen, crying and laughing, pushed the wire connected to the igniter onto his arm and then pressed the metal cap. Clack. Although we are well prepared, it is obvious that we have not prepared enough. At the moment when he felt the electric shock, he didn't even have time to feel it. He shook his arm and pushed the igniter open. Wow, this little thing is quite exciting. Lin Beichen took a deep breath, calmed his fluctuating emotions, and put himself in a state of super concentration before pressing the metal cap again. Clack. This time, he felt the sensation of the electric shock as he was more fully prepared. But I only felt the sensation of electric shock, but there was no other sensation. Fortunately, Lin Beichen had already anticipated that the process of enlightenment would not be very smooth. He was not discouraged. Press the metal cap again. Clack. Clack. I don't know how many times the metal cap has been pressed. Suddenly, Lin Beichen felt a different feeling on his arm, or more precisely, at the point where he was electrocuted by the igniter. At the moment of hearing the crackling sound, the first thing to feel is no longer the stinging pain, but the restlessness of the cold hair around that point, accompanied by a burning sensation. The next moment, the cold hair no longer moves and calms down, and the stinging feeling reappears. So the tingling sensation wasn't the first sensation. Why is Kuhanmao restless? Where exactly does the burning sensation originate from? Lin Beichen's head was spinning at high speed, and his hands were not idle, continuing to press the metal cap of the igniter. Clack. Clack. I don't know how many times I've been electrocuted. Lin Beichen felt that the spot on his arm that had been constantly electrocuted had become numb, and he could hardly feel the tingling sensation. However, the feeling before the tingling sensation occurred became even clearer. Clack. Just after this electric shock. Suddenly. He found that all the feelings seemed to have been slowed down several times. He seemed to feel the relatively completely balanced positive and negative charges on the surface of his body, which were swirling around the cold fur and restless. It's an electric charge. The restlessness of cold hair and the burning sensation, it's all because the originally relatively balanced and stable positive and negative charges around Hanmao became unstable after being electrocuted. But although the positive and negative charges I feel are unstable, it seems that they are still in a completely balanced state for a period of time. Did electric shock really change the balance? But why didn't we change the balance of positive and negative charges right away? And isn't electricity generated after the collision of positive and negative charges? So, after being released, electricity becomes neutral and no longer has any positive or negative properties. How can it change the balance of positive and negative charges in a completely balanced state? A series of thoughts made Lin Beichen, who initially felt that he was close to the answer he wanted, realize that he seemed to be far away from the answer. Intuition tells him there must be something wrong. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. CPU dry burn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. CPU dry burn, but where is the problem? Lin Beichen has not yet realized that all he can do is continue to feel the electric shock. But after experiencing the sensation just now, he realized that no matter how much electric shock he received, all he could feel was a tingling sensation, and nothing else. Is it that I have already tolerated this level of electric shock? Lin Beichen had already considered this situation, otherwise he wouldn't have bought so many different models of lighters and electric sticks. Without saying a word, he immediately dismantled another lighter and took out the igniter from inside. The new igniter is twice as large as the previous igniter, and obviously, it can output a stronger voltage. Continue. Lin Beichen was eager to know the answer, but without taking a breath, he started pressing the metal cap of the starting firearm again. Clack. Clack. The output voltage has indeed become stronger, and the previously numb position has once again felt a tingling sensation. After countless electric shocks, he has once again entered a state where he can feel the presence of positive and negative charges. Just the feeling of entering this state of sensation this time is far from the same effect as when I first realized it, and I have only gained a clear understanding of the state of charge based on my previous perception. Only 1 billion dots. The effect is minimal. Moreover, after regaining consciousness from this feeling state, the voltage generated by the current igniter remains the same as before, providing no further assistance except for a tingling sensation. Fortunately, Lin Beichen had some psychological improvement on the difficulty of creating cultivation methods and did not feel discouraged due to this small setback. If you feel no sensation after being electrocuted, switch to a higher voltage device. If you're really tired, rest. And so it went on and on for several days. He also replaced the igniter of a regular lighter with a powerful electric stick. Very close, very close. After several days of reflection, Lin Beichen has become extremely clear about the state of positive and negative charges, and can even be precise to the unit of each charge, without exaggeration. But the clearer he feels the state of positive and negative charges, the more he can feel that his previous intuition is correct. Where is the problem? His every insight can help him get closer to discovering the problem, but at the same time, it also makes him feel that he is further away from the answer to the problem. And just now, he came back to his senses from the latest realization. He was certain that he was infinitely close to perceiving the problem. A little bit, almost every time. Lin Beichen looked at the electric baton in his hand with a fixed gaze and a determined expression. I don't want to be too close. This time, I must know exactly where the problem is. In fact, he is also worried that knowing the problem will lead to himself being separated from the answer like a Milky Way. But he also understands that to create a cultivation method that is not available in the world, he needs to constantly explore the answers to one question after another. There is no shortcut to take. Compared to the gradual distance of the answer, not being able to find the problem is even more painful. Although there were still a few electric batons in front of Lin Beichen, he didn't reach out for any of them after putting down the batons in his hand. Instead, he stood up and walked to his desk, taking out an electric baton from the drawer. This electric stick is a police standard electric stick, of course, not a real police electric stick. He found out that currently, it is relatively convenient for ordinary people to buy an electric stick. The output voltage of the electric stick that is within the maximum range that a person can withstand is directly higher than the other electric sticks purchased together, and there is a unique situation where the output voltage is cut off. Originally, he thought he wouldn't need this electric stick soon, so he placed it separately in the drawer. I don't believe that taking down the powerful medicine won't reveal where the problem lies. Lin Beichen pushed the electric baton onto his arm. Despite performing this action countless times in the past few days, he felt somewhat nervous being held up by this electric stick. After taking several deep breaths, adjusting his mindset, and being mentally prepared, Lin Beichen pressed the button on the electric stick. Da-da-da. With a loud crackling sound, a strong light blue and white electric light burst out between the electric baton and Lin Beichen's arms. Lin Beichen let out a muffled groan, and his body involuntarily twitched. As the electric baton in his hand fell, his body also collapsed onto the bed. Bang! Clack! However, although his physical reactions were strong, Lin Beichen's consciousness was calm, and his sense of everything around him instantly entered a state. This time, in addition to feeling the commotion of positive and negative charges on his body surface as clearly as before, he also vaguely felt the restlessness of positive and negative charges inside his body. This is the first time he has felt the dynamics of positive and negative charges inside his body. They are everywhere. Spread all over the body. And this time, it seems like a magnifying glass has framed the key observation area for him. The position where the positive and negative charges on the body surface come into contact with the skin. That's where the most intense positive and negative charges are on the surface of the body, and it's also where the most restless positive and negative charges are inside the body. Fury and restlessness. The activity level of positive and negative charges inside and outside the body is a completely different concept. And he found the point he had been searching for between these differences. The positive and negative charges have lost their perfect equilibrium state. The reason why the previously detected positive and negative charges on the body surface only lose their perfect balance after a period of time after an electric shock is due to the positive and negative charges in the body. The positive and negative charges on the surface of the body, as I previously guessed, do not actually create a charge difference out of thin air. Instead, they collide with the positive and negative charges in the body between the skin, an intermediate medium. Due to the difference in activity, a charge difference is generated between the surface and the body. So, electric shock is not a direct cause of breaking the equilibrium state, but just a trigger. Lin Beichen finally found the place where he had always thought there was a problem. After successfully crossing this last bit, he understood why he felt that after knowing the problem, he would be even further away from the answer. Because more problems have arisen. After the electric shock, there was a charge difference between the positive and negative charges on the surface and inside the body. The missing charges on the surface of the body would quickly be replenished from nature, but strangely, the missing charges in the body were also replenished quickly. Where can the missing charge in the body be replenished? You should know that the human body itself is in a state of perfect balance between positive and negative charges, which is a closed and stable closed loop. If it is replenished from other parts of the body, there will not be a charge difference in other parts. If we understand it according to modern science, humans are conductors, and excess charges are exported from the body. This will not lead to an imbalance in the stable state of external positive and negative charges, and electricity will not appear in the air. However, why is there no sign of electricity until now? Or is it said that modern science is too macro, and one's own state is too micro, using modern science to understand is already a mistake? And if the balance of positive and negative charges in a person's body can be quickly restored after experiencing an electric shock, isn't it because the balance of positive and negative charges in the body has been completely disrupted for people who have been electrocuted multiple times after many years in the news I've seen before? Or is it true that the imbalance of positive and negative charges in their bodies caused them to be struck by lightning, but every time they are struck by lightning, they are just like the first time they were struck by lightning, having been electrocuted before being struck? That's not right either. The places where people who have been electrocuted multiple times in the news are located and the objects they carry are not enough to support them from being electrocuted. They have been in a state of imbalance between positive and negative charges, but how did they do it? Is the voltage of the electric shock you received not enough? Lin Beichen felt that his CPU was about to burn out. And as this feeling gradually dissipated, his consciousness, which had been electrocuted, gradually became blurred and hazy. At this moment, a familiar voice rang in my ear. Son, what's wrong with you? The voice was filled with panic and anxiety. It's Lin Xiangdong's voice. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. What does high voltage feel like? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. What does high voltage feel like? A few days ago, after a deep exchange between the old couple, they were particularly attentive to Lin Beichen's every move. And in the past few days, except for meal time, he has been confined to his room without making any noise. This abnormal behavior has caught the attention of the elderly couple, who are closely monitoring the movements in the room. Just now, Lin Xiangdong was reading the newspaper in the living room when he heard the electric batten falling to the ground from Lin Beichen's room and the strange sound of him falling heavily on the bed. This startled him, and he immediately put down the newspaper in his hand and ran to the door to knock and inquire. At that time, Lin Beichen was still in that wonderful feeling state, not sensitive to external perception, and did not respond. After multiple unsuccessful inquiries, he finally opened the door and rushed into the bedroom. As soon as I entered the door, I saw the scene before me. On the floor were electric batons of different sizes, with the largest one by the bed. His son lay on the bed, his body trembling slightly and his mental state sluggish. Son, are you okay? Lin Xiangdong didn't dare to move Lin Beichen for a moment. He just lightly patted his shoulder and saw him breathing evenly. His eyes gradually opened, and the air blocking his heart became smoother. He asked, Son, what's wrong with you? Did you use an electric batten to electrocute yourself? What are you doing this for? It won't even improve your grades. He thought that as the day for the release of the college entrance examination scores approached, his son's pressure became greater and greater, leading to this self-harm behavior. Lin Beichen's mind is buzzing with melon seeds now, and his consciousness cannot be said to be too vague. Anyway, he is also vague and rambling, and his thoughts are still stuck in the just thought. Listening to the constant questioning in his ear, he blurted out his thoughts and said, I don't know what high voltage feels like. Lin Xiangdong. What did I hear? High voltage electricity. This stinky kid still wants to try high voltage electricity. Lin Xiangdong broke out in a cold sweat and quickly comforted, Son, please stay calm. Don't do anything that makes yourself or your parents regret. Life is still long, and life is not just about going to school. Lao Lin, what's going on here? At this moment, Zheng Xia appeared at the entrance of the bedroom, looking at the scene inside with a bewildered expression. Lin Xiangdong didn't hide anything for Lin Beichen, and told her everything he had just seen and heard. Hiss. After listening, Zheng Xia took a deep breath and without saying a word, began to search through Lin Beichen's bedroom. She dug out all the lighters and electric batons he had bought, and then began to arrange to take Lin Beichen to the hospital to check his mental condition. At this moment, Lin Beichen had already regained consciousness from being electrocuted. Of course, he would not follow his mother to the hospital for examination. He was not sick, so why go to the hospital? Go pretend to be confused with the doctor while trying to understand. No need. Mom, believe me, I'm really okay. I don't need to go to the hospital. Son, go take a look. It's really unnecessary. Don't you trust your son? Zheng Xia saw her son repeatedly rejecting her, and she was worried that an overly tough attitude would irritate him, so she also gave up the idea of taking him to the hospital. However, she never gave up on seeing him for a second. Soon, she entrusted someone to hire a well-known psychiatrist in the city to come to her home in her spare time after work to give her son a preliminary diagnosis. In order to ensure that Lin Beichen did not resist, the expert even came wearing casual clothes. Zheng Xia did not reveal the identity of the expert, so she assumed it was an old friend and arranged a meeting between the expert and Lin Beichen at home. Expert. Chen, I heard from your mother that you didn't seem to perform very well in the college entrance examination, so you feel a lot of pressure in your heart. No, uncle. Lin Beichen shook his head and smiled truthfully. I did pretty well in the exam. Anyway, I can definitely go to Tsinghua and Peking University, so there's no pressure. Expert. Before he came, he had learned about Lin Beichen's detailed situation through Zheng Xia. Although you have been studying hard in the last month before the college entrance examination, you still want to get into Qingbei from the bottom of your grade. The expert had a preliminary thought and continued to ask, you're so amazing. Your mother and I are hiding something, but since you did well in the exam, why did you hear your mother say you were at home a few days ago? You don't know how to worry about your mother. Hee. Lin Beichen smiled and remained silent. He didn't know how to tell the other person about this matter. What he did was something that ordinary people could understand. There are quite a few questions for this uncle. What is he doing here? Although Lin Beichen was reborn once, he was also not good at communicating with his elders. He sat awkwardly together and stood up, saying, Uncle, I'll go back to the house first. At this moment, Zheng Xia had just finished washing the fruits and walked out of the kitchen. When she saw Lin Beichen returning to the bedroom, she quickly wanted to stop him. Chen. It's okay. The expert stopped Zheng Xia and gave her a wink. Zheng Xia understood and didn't say anything more. She quickly walked over to the expert's seat, holding fruit. She lowered her voice and whispered, Diar. Wang, how is Chen? Have you made a judgment? The expert nodded and said seriously, although I only talked to Lin Beichen for a few words just now, it can be preliminarily classified as a stress-induced mental illness, and I have a strong sense of self-protection. As she spoke, she saw Zheng Xia's expression getting worse and worse. He added, you don't have to worry too much. Lin Beichen didn't show any aggression, and his thinking was to some extent very stable. These are all good phenomena. The only thing worth noting is his current self-destructive behavior. Based on his current situation, I think he will gradually improve over time after the release of the college entrance examination results. As for me, he doesn't need any special treatment, just rest at home. What your parents need to do is take care of him before the release of the exam results, and at the same time, don't let him feel a strong sense of care, which will create additional pressure. When experts communicated with Zheng Xia about Lin Beichen's so-called illness. Inside the bedroom. Lin Beichen is using his computer to check the recent weather conditions. In the past few days, he has run out of equipment to continue feeling electric shocks, and wherever he goes, he has attracted the attention of his parents, just missing out on his own side. Of course, at this point, Lin Beichen has also realized that a simple electric stick click is no longer enough to make him understand. He needs more natural lightning power from heaven and earth. Nowadays, all he can do for his research every day is search for information about lightning online, but this does not provide him with any inspiration or insights. And just now, he suddenly thought that he might be able to secretly leave home and head to the mountains not far from home. Taking advantage of the thunderstorm, he could feel the lightning again and see if he could have the same insight that was triggered when he first saw lightning on a thunderstorm. The next week will be sunny. There will be rain next Monday, but the probability of rainfall is only 30%, which is too low. Not next Tuesday either. Hey! Next Thursday is good. The probability of rainfall is 100%, and it's still a thunderstorm. Lin Beichen confirmed a good day. Immersed in making plans, he was completely unaware next Thursday is not just a 100% thunderstorm day. It's also the day when the college entrance examination results are released. End of this chapter.